Hi, welcome back to the 30-Second Success Podcast, where clarity, courage, and connection come to life through the decisions that define us. I'm your host, Laura Templeton, and today we're diving into the bold, messy, and meaningful moments that help us move forward in business and in life. Welcome. This episode is about the truth behind powerful messaging. Here's a tip: it's not about you, right? Why do I say that? Most of my clients feel like when they're asked to do their 30-second message that they need to tell people everything that they do, all of their qualifications, especially when it's a service-based business, right? If it's a product-based business, that's one thing. We know what our products do, how they help people, what it solves. That's the exact same formula we need to be using when we are talking about a service-based business. What I mean about a service-based business is whether you're a coach, a consultant, a financial advisor, a realtor, these are service-based businesses. There's not a physical product involved. And we want to make sure, unless you're an author or something like that, where you're normally talking about your brand authority and your thought leadership, but the biggest thing is to remember that that's a tangible asset. That's something people can touch and feel and hold. When we are talking about our brand message from a perspective of a service-based business or a professional who's in the corporate environment where you are representing a company, we need to think about the audience, the people that we're speaking to. That's why your message needs to be magnetic and not self-focused. The most inspiring messages that come from people that you've met, think about it, right? How do they make you feel? What's that emotional connection that you feel when they're talking to you, when they're sharing what they do, when they're sharing how they help their clients and the solutions that they offer, right? It's more about it's more about the difference between telling and connecting. Right? When we tell somebody something, we're telling it from a perspective of this is what I did, and this is how I did it, and this is what I do, and this is how I do it. But when we start looking at it from the perspective of them and connecting, we want to talk about that. Think about the deep emotional drivers that connect us to our audience. Think about one of your favorite commercials on TV. Right. Got a picture? Think about that, the commercial that gets you to want to pick up the phone and order something or buy something or hire someone. Most of the time, it's helping you solve a problem that you have. They're talking about what you're struggling with. And, I don't know why, but Angie's List comes to mind. And Angie's List is one of the services that there's not a tangible physical product, but it's a platform that vets service providers. It vets contractors and consultants for the consumer so that you have more trust in who you're hiring. Would you call it Angie's List first before you hired a plumber that you've never met when you move into a brand new home and you don't know who to ask for a referral? You bet your life you're going to ask Angie's List. You want to know. It's kind of like Consumers Report. Same thing. You want to make sure that the people that you are hiring are trusted. And by them sharing Angie, you trust Angie's List to tell you the truth and vet these people for you. So you're trusting Angie's List. And when you start to trust Angie's List and the people in their circle, that's where the expansion of your network and the expansion of connecting can come in. And we'll dive into more about networking later, but I really want to stick with the 30-second message and how this message needs to be more about your audience. So, quick reminder here, if you're enjoying this episode, please take a moment to like, follow, and subscribe to the podcast. Your support helps us reach more people with stories and strategies that inspire real connection. So here's an example, right? So I already told you one with Angie's List, but an example of a message that totally misses the mark. If I were to show up and tell people that I write 30-second commercials for business owners, right? Very lame, very kind of, okay, you write 30-second commercials. Well, I can do my own 30-second commercial. But if I showed up and said, at 30-second success, we help people develop that 30-second message that inspires people to want to work with them, helps people understand what it's like to be in their world, and to help them increase their bottom line cash flow by attracting the clients they're meant to serve. Different story. You can feel the emotion. You're identifying, "Oh, that's me." One of the things that I used to love to show up and share was, how many of you know someone who hates to do their 30-second message? They absolutely despise it to the point that they won't even go to networking events. That's where I come in. I help people dig deep, find the words that define who they are, who they serve, and how they serve them, and create that message that naturally attracts clients to them. It's not about chasing clients, it's about attracting clients. That's what that message is all about. This is the power of your message and really putting yourself in the shoes of your audience. So, if today's conversation got you thinking about your brand, your message, or how you're showing up in the world, come check out the Brand Success Hub. It's my on demand resource center packed with tools, training, and templates to help you get clear, consistent, and confident in your brand. This is where I hang out. And if you go to 30-second success and click on the hub, I will see you there. But in the meantime, let's talk about the secret to becoming client centered in every communication. Whether you're creating content for your social media, if you're creating a blog for your website, if you are creating content for your website as well, your landing pages, offers, it means everything that you're putting out there is not about you. I had a client one time who insisted on sharing all of the different services she offered in her 30-second message and could not understand why no one wanted to work with her. Well, first of all, she was like giving the whole gambit of everything that she did. She was going over 30 seconds. She was informing them on all of her services, so they didn't have any questions on what she did or how she did it because she was telling them in her 30-second message. So they already know, and they were just kind of filing it away like, okay, I might need her someday. She wasn't making the connection. She wasn't thinking about the emotional drivers that would get her clients or her potential clients to think about themselves or the people that they know, because that's one of the biggest things that your 30-second message can do is actually get your audience to think beyond themselves. And when you can do that, you're tapping into a broader network of people. So what we did is we actually sat down and used the formula, the 30-second success formula that I've created over time, and just really massaged it. It's something that I learned years ago from Brian Tracy and when I was in network marketing, and I learned how to really massage it and make it work for me. And I came up with this 30-second formula that I use for myself. I would use it for my clients. And it's a very powerful tool to have in your toolbox when you're networking. And it's client centered. It's real the most important thing in any messaging that you are creating, whether you're creating it on your own, whether you're creating it with the help of AI, is understanding who your ideal client is. What's keeping them up at night? What are the things that they are asking? What help do they need? Where are they stuck in their business, in their life, in their health? Think about where they're stuck and how you can help them overcome that. How will they feel when you help them overcome that? How do you help them solve that problem that's going to help them move forward? That's the most impactful thing that you can add into your message, right? So this 30-second success formula is very simple. It's a four-part formula, and I teach it to all of my clients. I teach it in the Brand Success Hub. I teach it online. I teach it in workshops. It's part of what I want the world to know. I even teach it in my book, The 30-Second Success. Ditch your pitch and start connecting. And it's a very simple formula. But it all starts with understanding who your ideal client is. So be sure to download the free 30-second success formula worksheet that can be found in 30secondsuccess.com under resources. It's there for everyone. And if you want it, please feel free to download it. But the biggest thing to know is that your 30-second message really needs to connect with your ideal client. So understanding who they are is the first step, right? But the formula itself starts with who's your ideal client, understanding who your ideal client is. What's the pain or problem that they are struggling with? So it's, what's the pain or problem? How do you solve it? How do you make them feel? What is the transformation that they will experience? What's your call to action? What do you want them to do once they know that they need your help or someone that they know needs your help? And I will tell you right now, 90% of the time when I am in a room in a networking environment, majority of 30-second messages do not have a call to action. Makes me very sad because you need to let people know what to do next. People are inspired to action when you tap into the emotion and then you tell them what to do next. It's the way our brains are wired. So make sure that you are doing that you are including a call to action in your message. And then the last piece is who you are and the name of your company. Now, I teach this formula very specific in that order with your name and company. There's a couple different ways that you can use your 30-second message. I'm teaching this specific formula that we use in networking environments, but it can be tailored to messaging, to your website content, to your social media posts, to everything that you're putting out there. Again, it comes down to understanding the emotional drivers that your ideal client is struggling with. So when you make a client-centered communication, it really uncovers is putting yourself in your client's shoes, understanding what they're struggling with, and then speaking from that particular emotion, right? So your 30-second message again is what's the pain or problem that they're struggling with? How do you solve the problem? How do you make them feel the solution? What's your call to action? And and then who you are and your company. So, flipping the introduction, I shared a few earlier. One of the things that I will share with you is I had a client one time and she was amazing. She's a feng shui consultant and she was struggling with her 30-second message. She did not like having a script for her message. Every time we would write, we would sit for hours and we would hang out. And this is one of my very early clients. And I would actually write 30-second commercials for her because I really understood her and I understood her work, and she would love them. And the next day I would get a phone call. I'm not feeling it. And we went roundabout, and finally, I realized that she was an amazing storyteller. And I finally said to her one day, I said, let's try and let me teach you my formula in a way that makes sense for you telling stories. And she was like, oh, I can't tell stories, in 30 seconds. It doesn't work that way. So I showed her how to break it down. And it was, just to be able to share her story, like, this is what the problem, what my client's problem was. This is how we solved it. This is how she felt once we solved it. And then here's what you can do if you want the same results for yourself. And here's who I am. And it changed everything in her business. She literally, the first time she shared her 30-second message after that in a women's networking event that we were at together, people started applauding because she finally had a 30-second message that helped them to understand how she helped her clients. Feng Shui is not something that everybody's in tune with or understands the value of, but once she started sharing the value of how she helped her client transition in her business with some of the simple changes that she helped her make, it was eye-opening for her audience and her business started to thrive. So that's one particular example that I love to share because it is so simple when we look at how to tap into the emotions and reframing our thoughts around when somebody says, so what do you do? It's really not about you. It's about how you make them feel. How do you serve your audience? Who do you serve? How do you serve them? And what's the transformation that you provide? So keep that in mind when you are creating your messaging. Make sure that when you're working in AI understands you, they understand who your ideal client is, they understand how you serve those ideal clients, and your messaging will become more tailored to that, especially the more you use it. I love working with AI. I love helping people embrace it, and I think there's so much value in it. But again, it comes down to helping it understand who you are, who you serve, and how you serve them. So, thank you so much for joining me on the 30-Second Success podcast today. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out next week with the next inspiring conversation or message. So, until then, stand in your brand, trust your voice, and remember success is just 30 seconds away.